On our wedding anniversary, my wife Emily invited me on a trip, the first time in 5 years. But after drinking a beer, I suddenly collapsed. Finally, it's over. No more dealing with incompetence. While puzzled by the last words I heard from my wife, I lost consciousness. When I woke up in the hospital, I began to understand what had happened to me. When Emily was called to the hospital room, she started trembling the moment our eyes met. I don't know anything. I swear I don't. My name is David, a 35-year-old office worker. I've been living peacefully with my wife Emily, who's 2 years younger than me, and our 4-year-old daughter Sarah, making us a family of 3. We both work, so Sarah attends daycare. My daughter Sarah resembles my wife Emily both in looks and personality. She's strong-willed and speaks her mind clearly. However, she's not the type to bully others. At daycare, she's the kind who invites friends to play together. The daycare teachers tell me that Sarah's tall and athletically gifted, which has naturally positioned her as a leader among her peers. Emily's tough, a go-getter, respected at work. At home, she's the same, efficient and straightforward, and I often yield to her opinions. I'm the only man in the house, a peacemaker by nature. Emily thinks I'm too soft, but I believe in a harmonious family life. For instance, if Sarah wants to go somewhere on the weekend, even if I'm exhausted from work, I'll do my best to make it happen. David, you can't even assert your opinion with the kids. You get overruled like that a lot, doesn't it bother you? Well, I'm tired, but it's hard to say no to our adorable daughter's requests, you know. Emily doesn't seem pleased with my approach, but I just want us to be a happy family. However, I noticed a gradual change in Emily's behavior. It started small, with her overtime increasing, getting home late. Emily's overtime gradually increased, and she started coming home later. She loves her job, but used to balance work and family time, leaving work on time to pick up Sarah. I often work late, so Emily's fixed schedule was a big help. But she began staying late at work 2 days a week. If it's work, I understand. I'll make arrangements to pick up Sarah from daycare. Thanks, I'll talk to Sarah about it too. So I started picking up Sarah from daycare twice a week, but she seemed a bit unhappy. What? You're picking me up again today? Mom buys me toys on the way home, but you don't. Well, buying too many toys might mean you won't cherish each one. I reasoned, thinking about Sarah's education and deciding to limit the number of toys we buy. But Emily tended to indulge her more, buying whatever she wanted. Despite Sarah's complaints, Emily's overtime didn't change. And then, the situation worsened. Emily's overtime was going to increase even more. The number of work days stays the same, but my overtime hours are increasing. I know it's a hassle for you. Sorry. Oh, really? I don't know the details of your work since we're at different companies, but please don't overdo it. Deep down, I was concerned that Emily was working too much, but seeing her apologize with a guilty look whenever she burdened me stopped me from expressing my dissatisfaction. I wanted to support her hard work, so I accepted this new routine. However, after 3 months of continuous overtime, I couldn't help but wonder about her work situation, and I decided to ask her directly. It's been 3 months of this. Is it going to continue? What exactly are you working on? I asked, hoping for some family bonding, but her response was unexpectedly harsh. Emily raised her eyebrows and glared at me, responding as if I had complained, offering a sharp retort. You wouldn't understand my work, David. I'm just doing what's assigned to me. Is there a problem with that? Emily's sharp reply took me by surprise. I had only asked in a casual manner, not expecting such an angry response. I wasn't criticizing her work. I just wanted to understand why she had to stay late so often. I know you're working hard, I said. Then don't complain. Emily, still not having let go of her anger, crossed her arms and stared at me intently. I'm concerned because both I and Sarah miss you. I thought maybe you could come home earlier more often. Sarah really looks forward to you picking her up from daycare. Oh, the pickup. Trying to convey Sarah's feelings, I described our daughter's usual demeanor, but Emily's reaction was unexpected. She looked at me with a coldness I'd never seen before and muttered, "She's not looking forward to me picking her up. She's just waiting for the toys I buy her." Her words stopped me in my tracks. I couldn't believe Emily, who adored our daughter so much, would say something like that. My weak rebuttal that Sarah wasn't just after the toys fell on deaf ears. I don't think she's just after the toys. I weakly counted, unable to say more. I never imagined such words coming from Emily, who adored our daughter, so similar to herself, so much. Seeing my silence, Emily delivered a final blow. I'm working overtime because your salary is low. At least take care of Sarah and help around the house. With that, she left the room as if closing the chapter on our conversation. That moment, I finally sensed something was wrong. My salary wasn't high, but we'd never struggled. More than that, it seemed like the increased overtime had changed Emily's personality, and I was at a loss. 2 more months passed, and things got worse. Emily was staying late almost every day, and there were days I couldn't pick up Sarah due to work. During those times, I had no choice but to leave Sarah in extended daycare. I knew that being at daycare late affected her meals and bedtime, which wasn't good for her health. Yet, with work not going away, I felt helpless and anxious, unsure of what to do. And on top of everything, Emily started going out alone on weekends. Until recently, our weekends were for family outings, listening to Sarah's wishes, shopping, or dining together. But lately, Emily often says, "I'm tired from work, so I want to go out alone today," and leaves the house around noon. Sometimes she claims, "I have to work on the weekend," or "I'm tired from working late yesterday. Can you keep it quiet?" She started to avoid both Sarah and me. For Sarah, who already endures her absence on weekdays, it's heartbreaking that her beloved mom doesn't play with her even on weekends. Her sad face, clinging to my knees, is a painful sight. "Is Mom not playing with me again today? Is she that busy with work?" she asks. I couldn't stand seeing her sad, so I started taking her out by myself. Worried she might get bored with just me, I sought help from my parents and took her to community events, trying to compensate for the reduced interaction with Emily. But while watching Sarah's smile, I couldn't help but think something was very wrong. Emily's change in behavior was too sudden, too extreme. If this indifference towards the family continued, it could lead to a crisis. I felt an urgent need to talk to Emily and resolve this. But before we could address these issues, the incident happened on a certain weekend, on a certain holiday. It was our wedding anniversary, and unusually, Emily was home in the morning. My parents, aware of my distress, offered to take Sarah overnight, giving us a chance for some uninterrupted time together. Just as I thought about discussing our situation, Emily unexpectedly suggested, "Since your parents are taking care of Sarah, why don't we go on a trip?" It must have been the first time in half a year that she spoke to me so cheerfully. Remembering that I hadn't seen her smile since she started working late, my initial happiness turned into confusion. Despite my bewildered reaction, Emily continued brightly, almost as if she hadn't noticed my hesitation. "Since Sarah was little, we couldn't really go on a trip peacefully, right? I found a nice place we can go to. Let's do it." "Are you sure? Even on a holiday, won't you get work calls?" I couldn't help but ask, as recently, Emily had been leaving the house even on holidays and nights for work. But Emily laughed it off. "It's okay. Your parents are being considerate, giving us a chance to unwind. And David, you've been taking care of Sarah so well. I want to thank you." Saying that, she began packing for both of us. In no time, we were ready, and she whisked me away on the trip. It had been 5 years since our last trip together, before Sarah was born. Going on a trip on our wedding anniversary felt like returning to our honeymoon days, and I was happy. Recently irritated with work-related matters, Emily seemed like a different person, joyfully enjoying the scenery and meals. Her unusually cheerful demeanor surprised me, but I decided to enjoy the trip too. We dined at a locally renowned restaurant and raised a toast. The restaurant Emily chose had a cozy atmosphere, and the food was delicious. "Thank you for always being there. I can work because you take care of Sarah. I really appreciate it," she said. "It's nice to hear you say that." Emily smiled and offered me a beer. After drinking quite a bit, I excused myself to the restroom. As I washed my hands, I looked into the mirror and questioned myself. What's up with her today? She's like she was before all the overtime. I hope our relationship can keep improving. I felt a mix of suspicion and happiness towards Emily's unusual behavior. But reminding myself that this was a special trip she planned, I returned to our table. There, I found a beer I didn't remember ordering. "I ordered it for you since your glass was empty." "Thanks," I replied, my caution melting away with her kindness. Seeing my wife Emily smiling warmly at me, the lingering caution I had held onto started to melt away. I decided not to doubt her goodwill anymore, and I drank the beer she offered. I wondered how long it had been since we last got along this well. Relaxed and letting my guard down, I ended up drinking a bit too much. I got really drunk since I wasn't particularly good with alcohol. Emily kept encouraging me to drink, even though she usually would stop me. By the time we left the restaurant, I was heavily intoxicated, barely able to walk without her help, and overwhelmed by sleepiness. "I'm sorry, I might have drunk a bit too much." "It's okay, are you all right? I'll get us a cab outside." As my vision swayed, I tried to maintain consciousness but soon reached my limit. My head felt light, and my sense of time became blurry. Then, I'd finally lost consciousness. At that moment, I heard Emily say, "Finally, it's over. No more dealing with incompetence." The next day, I woke up in an unfamiliar room, lying in bed. The white ceiling, curtains, and sheets suggested it was a hospital. The first to notice I was awake was my father-in-law, Michael. He looked into my face with tears in his eyes. "David, you're awake. Don't worry, you're in a hospital." "A hospital? Why am I here?" Although Michael tried to reassure me, my confusion only deepened. Looking around, I saw my mother-in-law, Linda, looking pale in a corner of the room. "What happened? Why are you here too, Linda?" When I spoke, Linda looked up, startled. "I'm so relieved you're awake, David. I've contacted Emily to come to the hospital. She said she would come right away, but it's been quite a while." It seemed Emily had left me somewhere after the incident. I had an inkling about where she might have gone. But what exactly is my condition? Michael was the one who answered my question. "David, you were found last night sleeping on the street by a passerby who called for help. You were brought here to the hospital. It's lucky you weren't hit by a car. On the street. Was I so drunk that I fell asleep on the road? And Emily, who should have been with me, had left me there." While I pondered this, Michael continued. "The hospital ran some tests and said it's probably because you drank too much alcohol suddenly. You're not much of a drinker, right? Maybe you went out alone and got a bit carried away." "I wasn't alone. I was with Emily." Shocked, I exclaimed, and my in-laws exchanged glances. "But the hotel reservation was made only in your name, David. Emily said she was working from home yesterday." Their worried, almost doubting expressions gave me an uneasy feeling. Emily was certainly with me, so why does it seem like I was alone? "Fortunately, someone found you quickly, so the alcohol has been flushed out of her system. The thought of what could have happened if a car had come by while you were asleep is terrifying," Michael said. "But where is Emily? I left her a message on the answering machine, saying you were in trouble and she should come quickly." Linda sighed. Hearing this, I remembered Emily's last words to me. "Finally, it's over. No more dealing with incompetence." Could she have intentionally left me? But why? There were many mysteries in Emily's behavior, but I couldn't confirm anything without talking to her. It turns out that while I was incapacitated, my parents had continued to take care of my daughter. No wonder why they weren't in the hospital room. Just then, the door of the hospital room burst open, and someone rushed in hurriedly. "Is David dead? I heard he was in trouble." Emily's voice sounded, and the curtain around my bed was flung open. Her loud entrance caused my in-laws to frown, and Emily's face appeared between them. In the moment our eyes met. "Why are you alive? You shouldn't be well." Emily turned pale and began to tremble violently as she screamed. "I don't know anything. I swear I don't." Emily, chattering her teeth and still trembling, left a parting remark and then, with shaking knees, quickly left the hospital room. She left the room quickly, shaking, brushing off her parents' attempts to stop her. Afterward, we tried calling her repeatedly, but she never answered. My in-laws apologized profusely as I stayed another day in the hospital for tests. I was finally able to be discharged from the hospital the next day. Surprisingly, I felt fine despite being left on the street after drinking heavily. My in-laws stayed with me and took care of the paperwork and other necessities, making me feel even more indebted to them. Receiving such extensive care made me feel even more apologetic. After being discharged, I immediately went to my parents' house to see Sarah. It felt like a reunion, even though we'd only been apart for a few days. While my daughter was happy to see me, I asked my parents to look after her a little longer. I had something important to settle. I headed to a particular apartment to confront the situation. Taking a deep breath, I rang the doorbell and heard a female voice from inside. Recognizing the familiar voice, I clenched my fist. "Who is it?" "It's me, David." Hearing my name, there was a commotion inside, sounds of things being knocked over. After a moment, Emily opened the door. She was pale as a ghost, staring at me in disbelief. "How did you find this place?" Her first words to her husband after such a long time. "I should know where my wife's affair takes place," I replied loudly. Emily, looking around nervously, motioned for me to lower my voice. "Then let me in. I want to talk to the person you're having an affair with directly," I declared loudly. Seeing this, my wife, sweating profusely, seemed to resign to the situation and reluctantly let me into the apartment. It was a bit forceful, but necessary to prevent her from escaping. It was a complete victory for my strategy. Inside, I found the other man, supposedly Jason. I knew about this apartment and the name of the person my wife was having an affair with because I had hired a detective agency to investigate her infidelity. Jason, unlike me, who was quiet and serious, seemed like a bold type, wearing flashy open-collared shirts and lots of jangling accessories. This was our first direct encounter, but the documents from the detective agency had described him as pushy and shameless, and certainly, having an affair with someone else's wife was brazen in itself. In both appearance and character, he seemed to be the complete opposite of me. Emily, still pale, asked hesitantly, "Are you all right?" "Your health?" "Yeah, healthier than I realized," I replied. I was forced to drink beyond my limits and left on the street late at night by Emily. I had many questions, but first, I answered hers. "The hospital ran tests. I'm perfectly fine. But why did you leave me on the road, risking an accident?" "I don't know. You went on a trip alone, got drunk, and fell asleep on the road," she desperately explained. "Really? But the people who reported me said they saw a woman resembling you leaving the scene." "That's..." Emily avoided my gaze, sweating profusely, but I had no intention of stopping my pursuit. "And I remember something. When I was left on the road, I briefly woke up." "What?" she exclaimed in shock. I was slowly recalling the events of that night. That night, after drinking beer, I suddenly felt overwhelmingly sleepy. At one point, I managed to open my eyes. To my surprise, I found myself lying on the road. Realizing the danger, I tried to stand up, but I couldn't muster any strength in my arms and legs. What should I do? "I need to stand up," I thought, but my body felt as heavy as mud, and I couldn't move from my prone position. The last thing I remember thinking with my fading consciousness was the danger I was in. After being taken to the hospital following the report, the hospital found it suspicious and contacted the police. That's when they checked the surveillance footage from the restaurant, I explained. My wife and Jason visibly tensed up on hearing that. The police investigation revealed that the restaurant's security cameras had captured both of us dining together. Additionally, while I was in the restroom, my wife had mixed vodka, which she ordered separately, into my beer. This explained why I got so heavily intoxicated. Furthermore, although the hotel reservation was indeed under my name, as Michael mentioned, it was found that a woman's voice made the reservation call. Does that ring any bells? Confronted with my question, my wife's sneeze shook and she collapsed to the floor. "There's no evidence that I did such a thing. Your call history on your cell phone tells a different story. It clearly shows you called the hotel to make the reservation," I counted. Moreover, surveillance footage from the nearest station to the hotel confirmed that my wife and I had arrived together, but she returned home alone. As I recounted these details, my wife, still pale, clung to my feet. "I admit I made you drink more, but in the end, you were fine, weren't you? So, you can forgive me, right?" I sighed deeply at her selfish reasoning. How could I accept such a half-hearted apology after she had put my life in danger? "Why did you want to get rid of me? Were you planning to remarry that man, Jason, after getting rid of your incompetent husband?" When I lost consciousness, Emily had said, "No more dealing with incompetence." I wanted to know her true intentions as I continued to confront her. My wife, who had completely lost her usual assertiveness, opened her mouth with difficulty. It turned out that she planned to get rid of me to collect insurance money, and then remarry Jason, living lavishly with the proceeds. I was fed up. "You're so weak-willed. Even a 4-year-old can outsmart you. You're so incompetent. How could you ever advance in your career?" she said. That was her motive, a luxurious life for herself, at the expense of my life. It seems my wife planned this entire incident solely to lead a luxurious life for herself, but my wife doesn't understand. The truth is, I wasn't manipulated by my daughter. I was indulging her wishes because I love her. My wife, absorbed in her affair and neglecting our daughter, could never understand my feelings. Was Jason involved in this plan? Yes, he bragged. A woman like her is wasted on a loser like you. I was going to take her off your hands, but you just had to survive. Jason's mindset matched my wife's. You plotted quite a dangerous scheme after having an affair with another man's wife. So what? We may have made you drink, but it was only an attempt. There's no proof of any insurance plan, so you can't do anything to us. To Jason, who was ranting arrogantly and spitting in agitation, I calmly informed him of the situation. I recorded this conversation on my voice recorder. I'll be filing a police report. Seeing the voice recorder I pulled out from my chest pocket, Jason also collapsed beside my wife with a thud. I'll also be suing for adultery. If you have any excuses, now's the time to say them. This recording will be heard by my lawyer and used in the divorce proceedings. Can't be. My wife, still pale-faced, looked at me with a vacant, unfocused gaze, unable to meet my eyes. I just hated our modest life. Your serious nature, always fussing over our daughter's toys, was pathetic. She met Jason, a supply at her company. They quickly became involved, and she wanted to divorce me for him. She lied about working overtime to go on dates, and over time, she came to the conclusion that she wanted to leave me and remarry Jason. I should have divorced you before cheating. I'm sorry for this messed up order. Please divorce me. I'll give you custody of Sarah. I want to marry Jason. What are you saying on your own accord? You're just pretending to apologize, but in reality, you're just saying you don't want our daughter. I declared I would sue for adultery and child support. She couldn't escape her responsibilities as a parent, even if she relinquished custody. I won't settle out of court for this incident. You'll face the consequences of your actions. As I said this, my wife finally broke down in tears. After witnessing that, I turned to Jason. You've been acting like you're not involved, but you're going to get arrested by the police too. Get ready to pay a hefty sum for the affair compensation, I said sternly. Jason, too, seemed speechless and collapsed to the floor. I then submitted the voice recorder evidence and the report to the police. My wife and Jason were taken into custody. They were likely facing serious charges. Before the sentence was finalized, I divorced my wife. I secured custody of our daughter and had her pay the child support and compensation in a lump sum. My wife's savings didn't cover it all, so it seemed my in-laws stepped in to pay the rest. They felt terribly about the incident and offered to cover it, not for Emily's, but for my sake. Emily promised to repay the full amount once she was out of prison. Jason, coming from a wealthy family, paid his compensation in full. After this incident, his family disowned him, leaving him without anyone to turn to. He and my ex-wife might remarry and struggle together to repay the debt. As for me, I decided to move back to my parents' house with my daughter. It's a bit farther from my workplace, but we live there with the support of my parents. My daughter's harshness, reminiscent of her mother, gradually softened. She became more understanding and stopped demanding toys excessively. I haven't yet told her the full story of what happened to her mother. Planning to do so when she's older. Whether she'll want to reconnect with her mother is uncertain, but I hope she continues to grow up honest and kind. I intend to continue cherishing and loving my family. Hey, the high school dropout. Still rocking that pathetic style, huh? Well, let me treat you to some fine wine today. At the reunion, I bumped into a classmate who used to mock me for being poor back in school. Despite us both being grown adults now, the moment he spotted me, he unbelievably held his wine glass over my head and poured the wine all over me. The rich aroma clung to my entire body, leaving me feeling terrible. How about that? Bet you're thrilled to get a taste of the high life. High school dropout. This guy hasn't changed one bit since those days. I was beyond angry, filled with disappointment. I've made up my mind. Decided. About what? I declared something ruthless to the classmate who mocked me. Then, his eyes widened and his face turned pale rapidly. Well then, let's start my counterattack in full. My name is Kevin. Raised in a typical family, with a self-employed father and a stay-at-home mother, my childhood was free from significant hardships. After school, I'd toss my backpack and play in the neighborhood park with friends until dusk. But things changed when I entered middle school. My father stopped coming home. Due to his work, it was normal for my dad to come home after I had gone to bed and leave early in the morning. I just assumed it was normal for him not to be around much. But on his rare days off, he did try to provide some family time, like going for drives nearby or taking us to amusement parks. And then it was just my mom and me. "Mom, are you okay?" One late night, as I got up to use the bathroom, I saw her sighing repeatedly while looking at the household budget book. "Yeah, I'm fine. You don't have to worry about anything," she said with a smile, but her face was visibly worn. Lately, there had been changes at the dinner table. The number of side dishes had decreased, and the fruits that used to be a staple were now gone. The lunches she packed for me each morning also changed, mostly just plain rice with a small amount of pickles or simmered dishes. One day, Brad caught sight of my meager lunch and started picking on me. "Your dad ran off in the night, leaving your family behind, didn't he?" I heard it from my dad. "That's why you bring such lame lunches, right? It's hilarious," he said, laughing with his cronies. I was so angry I almost lashed out, but the image of my mom's smiling face came to mind, and I clenched my fists to hold back. I don't want to cause trouble for Mom. Brad was the son of the president of Bradley Merchandising, a well-known food company in the area, and was seen by teachers as a model student due to his good behavior. In reality, however, he was a terrible guy who used his father's status and connections to bully others. If anyone stood up to him, they became his target. Fearing this, my classmates gradually distanced themselves from me, turning a blind eye to how I was treated. Encouraged by this, Brad's teasing only escalated. And finally, I reached my breaking point. It was lunchtime as usual. I sat in my usual spot, a secluded corner of the staircase, eating my lunch. "Hey, put Kevin." "Yo, Brad." Brad approached me with a sneering smile. I usually ignored him, but he didn't like that and took an unexpected action. "Typical peasant's lunch. Looks as bad as ever," he said, reaching for my lunchbox. "Hey, what are you doing?" I impulsively knocked Brad's hand away. "Ouch. You." "Sorry, but you suddenly reached for it." Then, Brad snatched my lunchbox and slammed it onto the floor. The rice and leftover meat and potatoes from last night scattered in a sad mess. I pictured my mother's sad face. "What the heck are you doing?" I shouted, grabbing Brad by the collar. "Think you can hit me? You know what'll happen if you do," he said with a smug look. Seeing his triumphant face, I lost all restraint. Before I knew it, I was on top of Brad. His handsome face was red and swollen in places, his lips split. Both of us were breathing heavily. "You'll pay for this." Brad's voice trembled. "Hey, what are you two doing?" A teacher from student discipline, alerted by the commotion, yelled fiercely and dragged us to the guidance office. "I'm so sorry," my mother said, her face pale, bowing repeatedly. "This is unacceptable, causing such a disturbance at school." The teacher, with a characteristically shiny face and bulging eyes, scolded us. No matter how many times I explained, the teacher wouldn't listen, instead fully believing Brad's fabricated story. Brad, as if nothing had happened, vilified me as a violent person. Being the son of a well-known local businessman, he was untouchably supported, facing no consequences. Faced with this blatant injustice, all I could do was endure. After the hellish guidance session, as my mother and I were leaving, the teacher spat out at me. "I'm worried about what kind of adult you'll become, always resorting to violence. Can you even become a decent person? Just you watch." But our life became increasingly difficult, with my mom's part-time job not enough to make ends meet. Despite the violent incident with Brad, my mom believed in me to the end. Always kind, my mom was someone I didn't want to burden any further. So, with the sole desire to ease her burden, I decided not to pursue college and instead chose to work. Decades have since passed. Days whirl by, seasons change rapidly, and society evolves at a dizzying pace, brimming with new conveniences. Before I knew it, the familiar streets had transformed, and my bitter, dark adolescent years seemed to fade into the distance. It was around this time that I received an invitation to a middle school reunion. When I saw that letter, the image of Brad's sneering face came back to me. He would undoubtedly be there. Honestly, I wasn't keen on going, but we were all grown-ups now. Surely, he wouldn't start anything petty. With that thought, I decided to attend. "Hey, Kev. Long time no see. You look good." Being called by my nickname by a classmate, it felt like I was back in middle school. While many had drifted apart after the violence, a few classmates who remained friends through it all were there, and he was one of them. "Man, you've aged a bit, haven't you?" he said, patting his protruding belly. "You too." As we shared updates and reminisced, a familiar voice rang out. "Hey, you are here too, huh? Wow, Brad, that's you." He seemed quite drunk and was in high spirits. "Brad, you okay?" I was surprised at myself for expressing concern. But Brad, glaring fiercely, retorted, "A bottom feeder like you worrying about me. I haven't fallen that low. Listen up." Holding a wine glass, he boasted, "I run Bradley Merchandising. It's wise to stay on my good side." He laughed arrogantly. Then, peering into my face, he exclaimed, "Hey, the high school dropout. Still rocking that pathetic style, huh? Well, let me treat you to some fine wine today." And with that, Brad held his wine glass over my head and poured the wine all over me. The surrounding crowd went silent, staring at us in a scene of total chaos. The reunion was completely ruined. The rich aroma clung to my entire body, leaving me feeling terrible. How about that? Bet you're thrilled to get a taste of the high life. High school dropout. He hadn't changed a bit from the times he used his privileged position to cause trouble. I was beyond angry, filled with disappointment. All my secret hopes shattered. "Brad, I've made up my mind." "Decided? About what?" To Brad's mocking face, I delivered a stark announcement. "You're fired." The room fell silent for a moment. "Fired? What's that supposed to mean? High school dropout can't even speak English?" Brad asked, clearly baffled. But I said seriously, "It means exactly what it sounds like." The crowd began to murmur. A former classmate tapped my shoulder and asked a question that seemed to float in everyone's mind. "So, what do you do now?" "I currently work at a food company as renowned as Bradley Merchandising." Wiping my head and face with a handkerchief I took from my pocket, I started explaining. "I'm in charge of corporate acquisitions, and I'm actually working on acquiring your company. As the next president, you should know this better than anyone." "What? What are you talking about?" Brad, trying to act tough, had his lips twitching and sweat on his forehead. "President Johnson should have officially contacted you about this, right?" "Johnson? President? Wait, the company you work for is..." Brad's face turned completely pale. "Yes, I work for Johnson Merchandising, a company my father is the president of. After high school, I joined this company and now serve as an executive director, overseeing the entire company. Deciding not to pursue college and instead work was tough, as there were hardly any companies willing to hire someone with only a high school education. I couldn't afford to be choosy anymore. I applied for any job I could find and ended up working part-time in a logistics warehouse. However, the barrier due to my lack of education was thicker than I imagined. Once people learned about my educational background, their attitudes changed, and I was never considered for permanent employment. Would my life end just as a factory temp? Lost in despair, I was returning home from work one day when I encountered the unexpected. "I'm home, huh? Welcome back." There was my father, who I never thought I'd see again. He looked much older, with white hair mixed in. Despite his weak smile, the sight of him brought a surge of anger, thinking of all the hardships we endured. "You just waltz back now. You have no idea how much we suffered." Then my father tearfully apologized. "I'm sorry, honey, Kevin. I'm truly sorry. I was so focused on getting the company on track that I neglected you. No excuse can change the fact that I caused you unnecessary hardship. I'm deeply sorry." My mother and I, without a word, just stared at him. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness, but I want to at least apologize to you both in some way." The house was completely silent. Eventually, my mother spoke up. "Regardless, I'm thankful you've come back. Things might not go back to how they were, but I do want to try and rebuild our family, little by little. But there's a condition." "What is it?" "Give this boy a full-time job at your company." "What?" I turned to my mother in surprise. Kevin has been working hard since he decided not to go to high school. He should be enjoying his youth like others his age. But due to his educational background, he struggled to find a full-time position. My mother's face was serious, almost frighteningly so. How much time had passed? All right, Kevin can work at our company, but on one condition. He must take the GED. Understand? There was a sense of earnestness in my father's voice, his concern for my future evident, considering I had to give up high school to work. And so, I stepped up from a factory temp to an employee at a renowned company. Of course, it wasn't easy at first. In fact, it was a continuous struggle. Being the president's son made me a target of envy, and I was often harshly criticized for even minor mistakes. Being new to corporate life, I struggled with understanding business etiquette and social norms, sweating through every new challenge. My colleagues would just scoff, offering no help. I felt completely isolated at work. Despite this, I worked tirelessly, volunteering for menial tasks and responding earnestly to unreasonable demands from superiors. Seeing documents I worked hard on being thrown into the trash with a smirk, or finding my desk littered with trash, I often thought about quitting. It was disheartening to be judged through the lens of being the president's son, despite all my efforts. What kept me going was my mother's presence. The mixed emotions she must have swallowed when she asked for me to be hired at my father's company must have been excruciating. For her sake, I had to meet the company's expectations. As I continued to work relentlessly, gradually, people began to recognize my efforts. Slowly, I was accepted as a team member, and this began to reflect in my work results. It possibly provided a healthy stimulus for other employees, as the company's sales started to rise year by year. As a result of my hard work, I was recognized and promoted, and from this year, I became an executive director, entrusted with important tasks. I have been involved in negotiations for the acquisition of Bradley Merchandising, a company that had been on a downward spiral for several years. Kev, you've made an incredible rise through the ranks. Never thought we'd have an executive director among our classmates. It's going to be awkward just casually inviting you out now. My unexpected identity caused a stir among the crowd, but Brad, still in disbelief, insisted, "Stop lying. I don't accept such a tall tale." Well, it seems your dad, the president, didn't share much about the company's situation with you. It's not surprising you didn't know, but my father was going to make me president. About that, I said, my expression serious. My father instructed me to overhaul the entire management of Bradley Merchandising, from the president down. That's impossible. Brad's face froze, but I didn't have enough evidence to make such a drastic decision. Then I heard about the reunion and remembered you were supposed to be the next president. I thought it wouldn't be too late to meet and talk here, but I let out a breath, releasing the disappointment welling up inside. Brad, you hadn't changed at all. Still belittling and mocking others. Still full of baseless confidence. That doesn't mean you can fire me. Come on, help me out. We're classmates, right? His attitude had changed drastically from his earlier arrogance, now desperately pleading. But I wasn't going to soften my stance over something like this. I just made a logical decision as a business leader. Running a company isn't as easy as you think, I said firmly and grabbed Brad's shoulders, looking him in the eye. I've faced many injustices as the president's son, but I never gave up because this company was my only path. You had more advantages, attending a good high school and graduating from college. It's time you put in real effort for once in your life. Tears held back, my voice shaking. I spoke to Brad, but he just stared back in silence, not uttering a word. A month after the reunion, I stood in front of the Bradley Merchandising building with my father. Today, we'll officially proceed with the acquisition. I had confided in my father the day before, and after some reluctance, he agreed to my terms. "We've been waiting for you," said the president of Bradley Merchandising, greeting us as he entered the meeting room, followed by his son Brad. Bradley spoke of his intentions to have Brad succeed him as president. Now, about the acquisition. He prompted me to start the discussion, but Brad's behavior was appalling, far from what one would expect from a future president or even a professional. I raised my voice. "Hey, Brad, are you even listening? This is about the future of the company. Do you even realize the responsibilities of a president? I don't need to hear that from you, Brad retorted. Then he turned to his father, saying something outrageous. Dad, are you sure it's okay to trust our company to someone who just climbed up using his parents' influence? Brad's suggestion that he was more capable of making beneficial decisions for the company seemed almost delusional. My father, witnessing this, clearly showed a look of exasperation. Even the usually stern face of Bradley grew more severe. Fool, what do you know about our company? He said, his temples throbbing with anger. Brad could only stare back with an expression I had never seen before. Bradley continued, unabated by his anger. Kevin's right. Your attitude today is beyond disrespectful. Running a company is not a game. If you're not serious, then leave. Brad's voice was pitifully weak in response to his father's overwhelming presence. The president then stood up, facing us with a serious expression. I apologize for this disgraceful display. I've been too indulgent with my son, expecting him to become more responsible in the workforce, but I was mistaken. I never imagined he would behave so foolishly, especially in such a setting. To you, the executive director of Johnson Merchandising, and you, Kevin, I apologize for his many discourtesies. As a parent, I am truly sorry. My father then addressed Bradley. Your feelings are clear. Bradley, the once imposing figure of the food company's president, seemed utterly diminished. Bradley, with a desperate look, continued, President Kevin, we need your help to save Bradley Merchandising. We no longer have the strength to continue on our own. If we come under your company's wing, I will step down from all my management roles and leave. The same goes for the entire board. But please, keep our employees, our precious staff, without letting anyone go. With that, he bowed so deeply his forehead nearly touched the table. I looked at my father, who seemed deep in thought, his eyes closed. Dad, I murmured quietly. He nodded solemnly. Bradley, I began. Yes, I see how much you care about your company. Given that, let's give you another chance to turn things around. A chance. Brad and his father looked shocked. Yes, a chance. If you genuinely care about your employees, there's still something to be done. We'll support you as much as we can. If that fails, we'll have no choice but to take over completely. Kevin, how can I ever thank you? Beside his tearful father, Brad looked completely drained, as if all the strength had left his body. I continued speaking, glancing between the two. I've always resented my father. What? I began, causing a look of shock in Brad. He neglected our family under the guise of work, forcing me to give up high school. I aimed to prove him wrong, but my mother, who suffered the most, forgave him. I still vividly remember my mother's resolute face when she chose to forgive. At first, I couldn't understand her, but now, I get why she decided to forgive. She taught me the importance of it. Kevin, I heard my father murmur softly. I am who I am today because my mother forgave my father. And recently, I've finally felt like I can forgive him too. Bradley nodded in agreement. Feeling as if pushed forward by an invisible force, I continued my thoughts. Everyone deserves a second chance. People become stronger by overcoming adversity, I said, turning to Brad, who was slouched back in his chair. Brad, leaning back in his chair with a sulky demeanor, glanced at me briefly. Brad, it starts here. Isn't this your time to step up? But I don't know anything about running a company. I placed my hand on his shoulder. It's okay to start now. Work hard, and the results will follow. Kevin. Brad looked at me, a faint smile on his face for the first time. After countless discussions, Bradley Merchandising agreed to a business partnership with Johnson Merchandising and began the path to recovery. Brad became the new president, with his father as an advisor. Brad, shedding the pride of being the son of Bradley Merchandising, worked tirelessly to regain the trust of each business partner through humble visits. His transformation inspired the employees. Their mindset began to shift. The company, once complacent under the guise of a large corporation and marred by internal power struggles, saw its employees stand up to the challenge. Sales put more effort into their work, and the administration focused on creating a welcoming environment for business partners. Brad notably enhanced working conditions by revising inclusive welfare policies and eliminating exclusive systems. contributing to a significant turnaround for the formerly struggling Bradley merchandising. Encouraged by the changes in everyone, including Brad, the company's sales gradually climbed like ascending stairs. This year, we were even able to provide bonuses to all employees, albeit modest ones. Similarly, our company's performance improved significantly, and we've now reached a point where we can sponsor various advertising campaigns. Kevin, President, hurry up. Just a minute, wait for me. The reunion became a catalyst for rekindling friendships with classmates I clicked with. Initially wary of Brad, they were now impressed by his transformation, sharing jokes and laughter. Hey, can we drop the president title when we're off work? I feigned annoyance playfully. It's just a habit, Brad said, scratching his head in embarrassment. His demeanor was endearingly sincere. Then at least call me by my old nickname when we're not working. I forgot what it was. You used to call me that all the time. Can't believe you remember that, Brad said, feigning exasperation. All right, how about this? From now on, every time you call me president, you owe me a drink. I thought to myself, it was indeed a good idea. That's a good idea. Okay, Kev, that's a first. All right then, Brad said, stopping in his tracks and calling me by the nostalgic nickname. Thanks, Kev. Human nature tends to cling to negative emotions, and I've been no exception. I resented being looked down upon for being a high school dropout and felt bitter about my social standing. If I hadn't forgiven my father, I might not have reached out to Brad and others. Despite all the harassment from Brad, I couldn't give up on him, remembering my own struggles. People who overcome hardships can face any challenge ahead. If you strongly desire to start over, you can change from that point. I plan to lead the company humbly, navigating the challenges of business with dedication alongside my valuable friends and colleagues. My name is Adam. After becoming a working adult, I married the woman I met and have been blessed with a daughter, leading a happy life. However, now that my daughter has become a middle schooler, my wife has gone on a trip with her friends for a break. Spending time alone with my daughter is a rare occurrence, maybe once every few years, so it feels strangely tense. Besides, I can't cook at all, so as I'm wondering what to do for dinner, my daughter makes a request. Papa, I want to go to that teppanyaki restaurant we visited with Mama, but we only went there for Mama's birthday. It's not the kind of place you go to on just any day. Isn't today special because it's just the two of us? Who knows if we'll have a day without Mama again? Well, maybe you're right. Let's go. Please, Papa. All right. I know it's not ideal, but I can't say no when my daughter pleads like that. So, I ended up getting talked into going to a fancy teppanyaki restaurant that we usually only visit for special occasions. Normally, my wife would probably scold me if she found out, but she's away on her trip, so I guess it'll be fine this time. As we enter the fancy teppanyaki restaurant, there's my middle school classmate, Johnson. I didn't find Johnson to be a pleasant personality because he looked down on everyone during our high school reunion, just because he was studying at a prestigious university. I tried to pass by without being noticed, but just at that moment, he turned around and saw me. Adam, is that you? I thought I was familiar with your face. Hi, long time no see. Papa, do you know him? He's a classmate from my middle school days. Adam, you have a daughter, huh? Nice to meet you. I'm Emily. Surprised to see that the daughter of a low-educated person like Adam is so well-mannered. Johnson hasn't changed since then. He's still the same as he was. He's still arrogant and looks down on me. This is exactly why I didn't want to be noticed. You don't have to say that in front of my daughter. Besides, my education level has nothing to do with her. Low education means low income, right? Surprising you can provide a satisfactory education. Do you enjoy looking down on people so much? I can understand a feeling of being looked down upon. Could you explain it explicitly to someone highly educated like me? As he says this, Johnson just keeps laughing. It seems more like he just wants to mock me rather than truly understand. Being looked down upon in front of my daughter makes me feel pitiful. I try to change the subject to alleviate the situation a bit. By the way, are you married, Johnson? I don't believe in marriage. If I mention that to a woman, won't they all become interested in my social status? Don't you ever think about having kids? It's like having a mini-me, and it's a great feeling of happiness. Don't push your average Joe feelings on me. I have my own wonderful sense of life, and I don't need kids to be happy. Well, I'm not trying to push my feelings on you. Just wanted to say that this is another form of happiness. The happiness felt by someone with a low education doesn't resonate with me at all. I'm living a happy life, playing around with various women. If that's what you think, that's fine. Johnson doesn't seem to take in what I'm saying, just outright dismissing it. He probably has no interest in what someone with a lower education than him has to say. He claims he's chosen not to marry, but I think it's more because of his difficult personality that no one comes close to him. Even at the high school reunion, no one initiated a conversation with Johnson. But apparently, he is unaware of the issue with his personality. Why on earth is someone with a lower income like you here at this fancy teppanyaki place? I usually come here only for special occasions, but I'm here today because my daughter asked. Oh dear, please don't push yourself to the limits. Some people find that sticking to supermarket meat is more practical. Having kids can indeed bring challenges. I think your perspective might change if you had kids. And I'm not here pushing my limits. Are your earnings half of mine, aren't you? I'm aware that graduates from colleges with that kind of academic level often end up in low-paid jobs. Moreover, having a child means additional expenses. You don't need to worry about that. And it's not half. While you may want to appear cool in front of your daughter, please don't lie. It's probably less than half of what I make. I don't know about your salary, but mine is enough to afford places like this. Then what, only come here on special occasions? Must be because your salary is low. Stop with the pointless lies. No matter what I say, Johnson keeps responding in a way that shows he's looking down on me. I'm fine being looked down upon, but I can't accept that he won't even listen to what I say. If he's graduated from a prestigious university like the University of California, Berkeley, and works in a top-ranking company, I'd expect him to at least have a decent conversation. Thinking that any more conversation would only humiliate my daughter, I decide to leave Johnson's table. Well, we're going to eat, so see you around. Wait a minute, we've just reunited. Let's talk for a while. I don't have anything to talk about with you anymore. Sure, a low and a high-educated person don't have much in common, but we can still talk about our school days, right? Without even trying to understand what I'm thinking. Johnson rudely walks into the private room I reserved. My daughter and I were supposed to spend special time together, and I even reserved an expensive private room. It's disastrous. I'm running out of patience, but I don't want to raise my voice in front of my daughter. Reluctantly, I try to persuade Johnson. If you know we don't have anything in common, why not go somewhere else? Why bother talking to a low-educated person like me? Fine, I'll put up with talking to you. Besides, your wife isn't here today, so it's a good opportunity. By the way, who did you come to this restaurant with? You must have a partner since you are here, right? Well, actually, my plans changed and I ended up not having anyone to dine with. Is it like a business dinner got postponed? Well, something like that. Johnson seems flustered for some reason. There's probably a different reason for his plans getting cancelled, but honestly, I don't care. All I want is to spend a happy time with my daughter sitting quietly next to me. If you don't have plans, why not go home? This room is reserved just for my daughter and me. I didn't order a course dinner for you. This is my favorite place. They'll make adjustments. Don't worry, I'll pay for my own, so I won't hurt your pool wallet. I'm getting really tired of his self-centeredness. I've reached my limit, so I decide to tell him straight. It's not about that. I want to spend time with just my daughter, so please leave. Raising your voice like that, typical of a low-educated person. That's why you'll never be part of the upper class. I don't aspire to be part of the upper class. Moreover, as you claim, if you are truly educated and competent, you should be more empathetic and considerate in your actions. Of course, I switch on that mode at work, but right now, I'm just chatting with an old school friend, so I don't want to turn on that exhausting switch. Even someone as highly educated as Johnson gets tired just by being considerate. I thought you were more capable than that. Frankly, I'm disappointed. Shut up, you don't need to say that. I'm a competent person at work, so there's no problem. Anyway, I want to enjoy my time with just my daughter, so please leave. While I comprehend that my presence may be vexatious, there's no necessity to express it so strongly. No matter what I say, It doesn't seem to resonate with Johnson at all. I think it's a waste of time to continue this conversation. Just as I'm about to leave to enjoy my time with my daughter, Emily, who had been silent until now, suddenly starts to speak. She must have reached her limit listening to all this. Papa, I've been listening, and even as a middle schooler, I completely understand what you want to say. However, he seems to be grasping nothing. You should fire this man right away. Hearing Emily's words, tears start to well up in my eyes. I'm impressed by her ability to see things so objectively. She's already in middle school, so it's natural, but I didn't realize she had grown so much. Indeed, if you can understand this much, maybe you're not doing great at work after all. I think so. You, Papa, are trying so hard to talk, and he doesn't seem to notice at all. At this, Johnson starts laughing loudly. I can understand what's so funny. His attitude, starting to laugh right after Emily's statement, made me upset. Why are you laughing? Because the idea of me getting fired is just too funny, no matter who hears it. What's funny about it? That's exactly why you should be fired. You're still in middle school, so you might not understand the ways of the world, but unlike your father, I am a very competent person. There's no way I'd get fired. Johnson talks to Emily in the same condescending way he talks to me. I guess Emily's words must be right on target, rather than amusing. He laughs it off, probably to keep his sanity intact. Since he started targeting Emily, he clearly seems more agitated. While you have a higher educational background than me, it's not clear how the world would judge us as individuals. That's right, just like Papa said. For now, I think Papa is more competent than you, and I want to follow him. Johnson laughs loudly again at this. That's because Adam is your father, naturally. In the eyes of the world, I'd be the one to fire Adam. Laughing at a middle schooler's words so seriously suggests that you're struggling at work, aren't you? There's no way that's true. I'm a graduate of a prestigious university, a highly educated person. I handle any job better than anyone. To me, you don't seem like someone who can handle work that well. I still think you should be fired if you work in a company. Why do you think I should be fired, Emily? Just because I don't seem like a competent person to you. You're just guessing based on looks and vibes. What does a middle schooler know? Johnson seems really bothered by being called out by a middle schooler. If he were truly successful at work, he wouldn't take this so seriously. I guess he might not be doing as well at work as he claims. I said you should be fired because, like Papa once said, bad actions always come back to haunt you. I see. You remembered what I said. Why does that conversation lead to me getting fired? That doesn't make any sense. It's because you've always looked down on Papa. Emily's words gave me a surge of courage. She had bravely stood up for me, so I should stand up too. It's his fault for being low educated. I haven't done anything wrong. No, regardless of education, looking down and mocking others is wrong. Even with a high education, don't you understand that? Johnson, unable to respond to my words, stood there with a frustrated expression. He probably realized my point was valid and couldn't find a comeback. It seems like you understand that yourself. Knowing it's wrong and still doing it is the worst thing a person can do. You're cocky. After all, you're just a middle schooler. One shouldn't do to others what they wouldn't want done to themselves. At that, Johnson lost his patience and started shouting back. I was moved to see my daughter so mature and righteous. I had always known she was growing up well, but I didn't expect her to have such a strong sense of justice. I want to spend more time with her, watching as she continues to grow and mature. Both of you shut up. Always whining, despite being low educated and low income. Education is everything. I'm the most important because of mine. Holding on to that mindset won't do you any good. That's probably why you're not married. I'm not married because I choose not to be. If I wanted, I could marry anyone. I don't think anyone would want to marry someone like you. If it was someone kind like Papa, I think they could marry anyone. What do you know? You're just a middle schooler. There's a lot you won't understand until you reach adulthood. Anyway, your father is a failure. Johnson became so heated that he began uttering completely illogical statements. His response is so emotional that it's hard to believe he's highly educated. He must be really upset about what we said to him. The fact that he's so affected by what a middle schooler said to him suggests that he's not used to being spoken to like this. There's no need to say that much to a daughter. You're an adult. Don't get angry over something like that. I think people who call others failures can't be good people. After all, Papa and Mama would never say such a thing. You might not say it in front of Emily because it's a bad influence, but I'm sure you say it behind her back, being low educated and all. Why would I need to say something like that? I've never called anyone a failure in my life, and I've never even felt the urge to. You might want to look cool in front of your daughter, but lying isn't good. Papa would never tell such lies, would he? Unlike you, he wouldn't call someone a failure. Hearing Emily's words, Johnson seemed to realize how pathetic it was to argue with a middle schooler and fell silent. He must have regretted getting so heated and realized his mistake. After all, it's embarrassing to argue intensely with a girl more than 10 years younger. Anyway, I'm much more capable than Adam, so no matter what I do, I won't get fired. Geez, you really don't understand, do you? Well, it's fine, but you should grow up a bit. It's you who needs to grow up. While we were talking, other customers started entering the restaurant. I realized we might have been a bit too loud. But then, one of the customers entered our private room. I couldn't see the person's face well from where I was sitting, but as soon as Johnson saw them, his expression changed. Why is the CEO here? Turns out, the customer was the CEO of the company Johnson worked for. I came for a small business dinner. But why are you here? I had some business too, but it was canceled, so I thought I'd have dinner with an old classmate I happened to meet. He said he had a work-related dinner appointment, but for some reason, he is trying to hide from the CEO. His behavior was obviously odd, so I decided to delve deeper to uncover the truth. Didn't you say you had a dinner meeting, Johnson? Why hide that from the CEO? As soon as I said that, the CEO entered the room. I thought I recognized that voice. It's been a while, Adam. Mr. Taylor, I had no idea you were the CEO of Johnson's company. I was surprised to hear your voice too. What a coincidence. Johnson looked puzzled, not understanding why the CEO and I were familiar with each other. He probably doesn't know why the CEO and I are on good terms. It's unexpected, so it's no wonder he's confused. Then, as if he had managed to clear his thoughts a little, Johnson interjects. Why is the CEO speaking in a modest manner to this guy? There's no need for you to address someone with such a low level of education in that manner. When Johnson said that, the CEO's face turned furious. What are you talking about? Adam is an executive at one of our major clients. Johnson was clearly caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events. It's understandable, considering he had been looking down on me, only to find out that I held a higher position. Mr. Taylor, I was keeping that under wraps. Oh, I'm sorry. I had no idea and just blurted it out. That's totally fine. Sorry, Adam, but if I didn't reveal your position, Johnson wouldn't stop his disrespectful behavior. Thank you for your consideration. Why is Adam an executive at a client company? How can someone with a lower education than me hold such a position? That's impossible. Just because you lied doesn't mean everyone else does. Besides, Papa is an important person at his company. How did it come to this? Johnson seemed unable to comprehend the situation, completely blindsided by the revelation. Indeed, Johnson has much better educational background compared to mine. But the world doesn't revolve around education alone. Johnson probably doesn't want to accept the truth. Seriously, I'm disappointed in Johnson for looking down on someone without even knowing who they are. I had high expectations for him as a professional, and it's a shame. Mr. Taylor, you may not need to go that far. From what I've heard, Johnson is highly educated, so he should be capable of performing well in a company, right? No, this guy is a burden to the company. He can do his job properly, and yet he's all talk, causing trouble for the other employees. Hearing this, Johnson tries to interrupt in panic. He must have a lot he doesn't want to be heard. Just a while ago, he was acting all high and mighty, but now he looks like a completely different person. Excuse me, sir. You can't say such things. I have the highest education in the company, and I excel in my work. Please review my performance and credentials properly. You came here for a business dinner today, right? That sounds like you're pretty capable. At that moment, the CEO starts laughing loudly. How come we let Johnson handle our business dinner? There must be some mistake. You lied to me. What's the real reason you come here? I can't say that. There's something going on. You're lying just to pretend you're more capable than me. Your character traits are truly hopeless. Lying to a client's executive. That's too bad. I can't help you. Do you really need to go that far? Yes, he is a client's executive, but to me, he's just an old classmate. Even if he's your classmate, that doesn't give you the right to look down on him. That's where one's character shows. Your daughter just told you that. You have been reprimanded by a middle schooler. You should be ashamed as a grown-up. Unable to respond to the CEO, Johnson falls silent again. Now that all his lies have been exposed, he must be devastated. If I hadn't run into you here, none of this would have happened. If you act like that at work too, this was bound to happen sooner or later. I agree with Adam. Regarding this matter, I'll make sure this incident is noted in your performance evaluation. Wait, that's... Even Johnson, who had been so arrogant until now, seems helpless after being directly reprimanded by the CEO. He looks pale and desperate. I guess the situation has gotten more serious than what he expected and is out of his control. Everyone will feel the same naturally. Who could have imagined that looking down on a classmate would result in dragging down one's own performance evaluation score? Papa was right after all. What did Papa teach you? If you do something bad, it comes back to you. Teaching such words, you must be a good father. And remembering what you were taught. You are a very smart girl. I'm impressed. Seeing the CEO praise Emily warms my heart. Parenting is sometimes tough, but raising kids uplifts me, pushing me to keep going. Thank you for your encouraging and heartwarming words. I didn't expect her to grow up this much. I'm impressed too. I have many kids, and I understand how hard parenting can be. If you need anything, feel free to ask. Really. Thank you. Please take good care of Papa. If a cute daughter like her says that, I'd want to do anything for her. CEO, in light of her cuteness, could you please go easy on my performance evaluation? Why does her cuteness affect your performance evaluation? Don't take advantage of anything in your favor. That exact part of you will also be noted in your performance evaluation. I really don't like your cunning behavior. Oh no, if you had been sincere from the start, none of this would have happened. Johnson, maybe feeling ashamed after being told this by me, retaliates with all he's got. It's surprising that he's still reacting like this even after being told his actions will affect his performance evaluation. He really is an emotional person. I know that. But there are no do-overs in life. You might not understand, being someone like you. It seems you're not reflecting at all. I was considering being a bit lenient in the evaluation if I saw some remorse in you, but that's disappointing. CEO, please don't say such things afterward. It's impossible to react when you say it later. That's why, like Papa said, it's best to always be sincere, no matter the situation. That's true. Always being sincere means even if someone catches a moment of your life, it won't be a negative one. That's true, but if you continue to argue, I might have to consider demotion. Do you have to go that far? What exactly did I do? Your terrible attitude towards a client's executive alone is quite a problematic act, considering that he is my classmate. But first of all, if he possesses conventional wisdom, he would never mock or look down on someone. Such actions are unacceptable. That is, eventually, Johnson seems to have gained some understanding and shows a bit of remorse. His attitude and mindset are causing this issue, so he should definitely reflect on his own mistake. If only I had known it would turn out like this, I should have just left instead of getting involved. Papa kept asking you to leave us alone, but you insisted, saying no, and it led to all this. So, Johnson was here for that reason. I'm sorry for interrupting your precious time with your daughter. Let me take care of today's bill. I appreciate your generosity, but please don't feel bad for us. Thank you for understanding. I'd like to treat your daughter to a meal. I hope that's okay with you. Thank you. Emily spoke up first, so I accepted the CEO's offer. If I insist on paying my bill this time, it might cause him to lose face in front of them, I thought. I truly appreciate your offer, I replied. By the way, Johnson, you said you were here for a dinner meeting, but what was the real reason? Johnson now understands he can no longer be dishonest with the CEO and starts telling the truth. I was here to meet a girl I connected with on a dating app. However, after some casual conversation, she left. Hearing this, I couldn't hide my surprise. But you were just saying you didn't want to get married. Well, that's, Just failing at dating and being too proud to admit it. Huh? That's right. Oh dear, you're nuts. You're lying through your teeth. We can tell whether you're speaking honestly or not. As a company, this is very concerning. If you want to get married, just be honest about it. Wanting to get married isn't strange at all. Honestly, when my dating match ran away, I thought I'd never get married. But seeing Adam and his daughter talk made me want to get married after all. I'm glad to hear that. Even if you've changed your heart, it won't lift up your performance evaluation score. Yes, I'm prepared for that. Johnson looks like a shell of himself. Having lost his dating match and expecting his performance evaluation to plummet, he must be feeling utterly dejected. I guess we're being a nuisance here, so we'll excuse ourselves. Sorry for the disturbance. No problem. Thank you for treating us. Please take care of Adam in the future. As I said that, the two of them left the private room. Then, as if on cue, my wife entered the room. Who were the people leaving this room just now? Just an old classmate I ran into and Mr. Taylor, a CEO I know. But why are you here? After parting ways with my friends, I checked my phone and saw a message from Emily saying, "Papa is being harassed. Please come help. I'm sorry to have caused you worry like that. I just couldn't stand seeing you being harassed." He really made my blood boil. I had no idea Emily initiated that for me, so I felt a wave of happiness. At the same time, I regret letting her go through such a horrible experience. But anyway, no major issues now. Well, we're at such a nice restaurant. Why don't we enjoy some mouth-watering food? Sure, you know, the CEO who just left has offered to treat us today. You always work so diligently. He returned his gratitude to you in the form of kindness. Like you said, if you do something bad, it comes back to you, but if you do something good, that comes back too. That might be true. If you live your life doing good for others, people around you will treat you kindly. Then I'll make sure not to do anything bad and be kind to everyone around me. I'm glad to see how well Emily has grown up. Without the incident that happened to us today, I would have never realized it. The incident involving Johnson turned out to be a precious learning opportunity for my daughter. It provided us with a real-life lesson. I'm inspired to continue living a life that sets a good example for her. Prioritizing another woman over our wedding is just the worst, she exclaimed. All I did was help a woman who had fallen. But my wife was furious, not pleased with my actions. Marrying the daughter of the GM, I came to discover her true nature. "I'll tell Daddy and have you fired from the company," she threatened. Subsequently, I ended up divorced and jobless. But I have no regrets. Ignoring that fallen woman would have haunted me forever. Then, the woman I saved appeared before me with a meaningful look. "If you seek revenge, I'll help you," she said. Her true identity was a mystery. "My name is Justin, and I'm 27 years old. I work as a salaryman at a distribution company. Actually, right now, I'm experiencing the greatest happiness of my life. I'm marrying Emily, my longtime girlfriend, and we are in the midst of our wedding ceremony. Do you, Justin, take Emily to be your wife and promise to love her?" "Yes, I do." "And do you, Emily, take Justin as your husband and promise to love him?" "Of course, I do." Thus, we shared our vow with a kiss. There erupted a grand chorus of congratulations around us. Truly, I am a fortunate man. I felt so lucky to have married such a beautiful wife. But that thought didn't last long. The ceremony continued, and we stepped out once to change our attire. I had thought a wardrobe change was unnecessary, or maybe just once would be enough. However, at Emily's request, we ended up changing outfits 3 times. In addition, everything from the venue, meals, cake, to the message board, all cost money, and we ended up spending more than double our budget. Thanks to the extravagant arrangements, the attendees seemed to be having a great time, and the atmosphere was lively. But honestly, the expenses pained me. After changing, I waited for Emily for a while, but she didn't show up. With limited time for the ceremony, I became worried and went to look for her. That's when I heard Emily's angry shouts coming from outside the room. "What do you mean by this? I'm terribly sorry. What happened?" "Listen, the dress for the wardrobe change hasn't arrived." "What do you mean it hasn't arrived?" "Actually, the bride had specifically requested this dress, but we were informed a week ago that it would be difficult to deliver it by the wedding day." We tried calling the bride several times but couldn't reach her. We intended to inform her by email. How am I supposed to know that? I really wanted to wear that dress. What are you going to do about it? We have prepared an alternative dress. Could you consider wearing that? That's a joke, right? I absolutely refuse to wear such a plain dress. Emily, please, let's just wear this dress for now. We have to consider the timing of the ceremony. Compromise on my once-in-a-lifetime wedding. No way. Bring me a more glamorous dress. Unfortunately, all the dresses are already booked, and this is the only one available. What? I can't believe this. This dress is really cute too, Emily. You look good in anything, so just try it on. Fine. If you give me a hotel stay voucher from here, I'll wear it. That's a bit much. You can't even do that, despite it being your fault. Look, I'll treat you to a hotel stay another time. Can you wear this dress for now? Really? All right, then I'll bear with it. And with that, Emily finally began to change. I apologized to the distressed employee on her behalf. Getting bossed around by Emily like this had happened numerous times. Being the daughter of an elite GM in the same workplace, she was quite pampered and spoiled. The number of times I've been swayed by Emily on dates is countless. Initially, when we started dating, she was kind and only occasionally showed her whimsical side, so I didn't mind it. Her capriciousness worsened after I proposed to her. Perhaps feeling secure about our marriage, Emily started showing her true colors. Her recent behavior had become excessively unreasonable, and this was my only concern. After that, nothing significant happened, and the wedding ceremony concluded smoothly. Whew, I'm exhausted. Hey, let's head home quickly. Just wait a minute. I want to at least say goodbye to everyone. What? You can just send them a message later, right? But they came all this way. It's only polite to say thanks. What a hassle, and it's not my thing. Come on, let's just go home. All right. Yielding to Emily's stubbornness, I reluctantly agreed to leave without saying goodbye. We got into the same car and headed towards our home. In the car, we talked happily about today's ceremony. Weddings are so fun and moving. Today was really something. Well, yeah, we spent a lot of money, so it should at least be entertaining. Today really created some wonderful memories. If only the wardrobe change had gone smoothly, it would have been perfect. That couldn't be helped, and they said they tried to contact you, right? If the message doesn't get through, it's pointless. It's not my fault. Yeah, maybe you're right. I didn't say anything more, knowing that Emily would just get more upset. As we drove along chatting, I spotted someone squatting down outside. I parked a car in front of the park and got out. Wait, where are you going? I'm just worried about that person. They'll be fine. Let's just go home and relax together. But they look in pain. I'll be right back. I couldn't ignore the woman on the park bench, clutching her stomach in apparent pain. I approached her and asked, "Are you okay? My stomach hurts so much." "Your stomach? Can you stand?" The woman nodded weakly. Somehow, she managed to stand up, and I guided her to my car. However, Emily, waiting inside the car, looked visibly upset. "Wait, you're not seriously planning to take care of this woman, are you?" "Well, not take care of her, but I thought I'd take her to the hospital." "No, I don't want another woman in our car." "Then you go ahead home in this car. I'll call an ambulance and take her to the hospital." "That's ridiculous. How can you prioritize another woman on our wedding day?" "Another woman? This is an emergency. What's wrong with helping someone in need? I just can't stand you prioritizing another woman over me on our special day, our wedding day. We can spend plenty of time together when we get home. For now, please help me get her into the car." "Fine, whatever. It seems like you just don't get it." "I'm sorry, Emily. Can you please come with me to help her?" "That's it. We're getting a divorce. I'll tell my father and make sure you lose your job too." "Are you serious? We just got married today. I'm dead serious. I don't want to be with a man who prioritizes another woman over me, even if it's to help her." "You hate it even if it's helping someone." "Yes, I hate it, and I'm done talking to you. Goodbye." With that, Emily got into the car alone and drove away. I was shaken by Emily's selfish behavior, but I quickly composed myself and called an ambulance. A few minutes later, the ambulance arrived, and I accompanied the woman to the hospital. Later, I was informed about the woman's condition and safety. There's nothing life-threatening, but right now she seems to be in severe stomach pain, making it difficult for her to talk. I left the hospital, feeling a bit worried. But then, I remembered a problem. I had nowhere to return to. To be exact, it was just hard for me to return home. You see, the house was provided by my in-laws, who are very fond of Emily. It just felt awkward to go back there. So, with no other choice, I stayed in a hotel that night and planned to go straight to the office the next day. I never thought I would end up alone in a hotel, feeling empty on the night of my wedding. Holding on to these sad thoughts, I fell asleep. The next day, I went to work as usual. When I arrived at the office, I noticed it was unusually noisy. Before I could ask what was going on, Carter, the GM, appeared in front of me. "Justin, what on earth are you doing here?" "What do you mean?" "I came to work, of course." "You have the nerve to show up at work after making such a blunder." "What do you mean?" Carter thrust a disciplinary report at me. It alleged a work mistake I didn't recall making. "What's this?" "I don't remember making such a mistake." "So, you're not only making mistakes, but now you're lying about it." "No, I'm telling you, I don't recall making this kind of mistake at all." "Do you have any idea how difficult it was to clean up after this?" "It's all your fault, you know. But I'm telling you," still trying to deny it. "Fine, you don't need to come to the office anymore." "You mean I shouldn't come in?" "Do I need to spell it out?" "I'm saying you are fired." "Fired? Why? You make a mistake this big and show no remorse. Isn't it obvious?" "That can't be. Besides, you did something terrible to Emily, didn't you?" "Something terrible?" "On the way back from your wedding, you were seen seducing another woman, right in front of my daughter." "I didn't do such a thing. I was just helping someone in trouble." "That sounds like an excuse." "Emily came crying to me last night." "It's not an excuse, it's the truth." "I can't believe a word of such a liar. I don't even want to see your face anymore. Can you please just leave?" "I understood." I gathered my belongings and left the office. And so, I ended up losing both my home and my job. Feeling lost, I decided to go back to my parents' place for the time being. They listened to my situation and comforted me. To avoid being a burden to them, I started looking for a new job right away. But all I got were rejection emails, and I couldn't find a company that would accept me. Finally, I managed to get an interview with one company. I practiced as much as I could and gave it my all. Honestly, I didn't feel very confident, but all I could do was hope for the best. On my way home after the interview, a familiar woman approached me. "Excuse me, aren't you the person who helped me the other day?" "Oh, you're the woman from before." It was Julia, the woman I had helped previously. She seemed to be in good spirits now. "Were you okay after that?" "Yes, actually, it turned out to be appendicitis. I've had surgery and I'm feeling much better now." "That's great to hear. Thank you so much for your help that day. And I'm sorry." "Why are you apologizing?" "I vaguely remember from that time. It seemed like you were having trouble with a woman." "No, Julia, it wasn't your fault. That day was after my wedding, and my wife was in a bad mood." "Your wedding? Oh no, I'm so sorry for ruining such an important day for you." "Please don't worry about it. The fault lies with me for not understanding my wife's true character before marrying her." "Is that so?" "Actually, my wife really didn't like that I helped you, Julia. She talked about divorce. And to top it off, my former boss is her father, and my father-in-law fired me, leading to my current situation." "Really? All that happened?" "Yes, but I don't regret helping you at all. In fact, I'm glad I did." "Justin, do you want to get back at your wife and father-in-law?" "Huh?" I was taken aback by her sudden question, not immediately grasping its meaning. "If it's revenge, I can help you." "What do you mean?" "You'll understand in time. Anyway, I would really like to properly thank you. Can we exchange contact information?" "Sure, but please, you don't have to worry about it." Although I didn't understand the intent behind Julia's mysterious offer, we exchanged contact details and parted ways. The next day, I got an unexpected message from Julia. She asked me to come to a location marked on a map immediately. Wondering what had happened, I quickly got ready and left the house. The place marked on the map was some food company. The company was Oakwood Corporation, a well-known major player in the industry. When I got to the company, Julia was there to greet me. "Sorry for calling you out of the blue. Please come this way." I followed Julia as she instructed. She led me to a room, which turned out to be the president's office. Inside, a man in an expensive-looking suit was sitting, waiting. "Hello, thank you for coming all the way here." "No problem. Is there something wrong?" "I guess I didn't explain anything yet. This is my father, the CEO and president of Oakwood Corporation." "The president? So, you are the president's daughter?" "Well, yes, that's one way to put it. The reason I asked you to come here is that I have a proposal for you." "A proposal?" "My daughter asked me to invite you to join our company as an employee." "Me, at Oakwood Corporation? But why?" "It's a way to thank you for helping me. I thought it was very unfortunate that someone as kind-hearted as you was treated that way. Let me thank you as well. Thank you for helping my daughter. I didn't do anything special. I heard about your situation from my daughter. We would be very pleased to have someone as sincere as you. But I didn't help her expecting anything in return." "You are very humble, Justin. Do you already have an offer from another company?" "No, I'm embarrassed to say I don't yet." "How about it, then? You used to work for a distribution company, right?" "Yes, a distribution company. You might be able to make a contribution in our company as well. I haven't done much significant work, but can I still be of help?" "Of course, it depends on your effort, but I believe you can do it." "If that's the case, I'd be honored to work at your company." "Great, we'd be happy to have you." "Thank you, Julia." "It's okay. Remember I said I'd help you with revenge." What did you mean by that?" "I think you'll understand soon if you work at our company." Although I still didn't fully grasp Julia's words, I was now set to start working at the new company. My parents were thrilled when I told them about it. Using the connections and knowledge I gained at the distribution company, I started negotiating to get Oakwood Corporation's products distributed in various places. "Justin, did you secure another contract?" "Yes, they heard my explanation and wanted to stock our products. And their acquaintance, who runs another store, is also interested in our goods. I'm visiting their store tomorrow." "Amazing. How many stores is this now this month?" "I think it's the 5th one." "Your good nature must have played a big part in this success." "Thank you, that's an honor to hear." I contributed more to the company's sales and quickly rose through the ranks, becoming a GM. Becoming a GM increased my interactions with President Oakwood Corporation and Julia even more. Julia and I even started going out for meals together privately. "Congratulations on your promotion." "Thank you. I never imagined you'd climb up to department head so quickly. Impressive." "I haven't done anything special, but my ability to contribute like this is thanks to you. I just scouted you. The results are all due to your effort." "Thank you." "So, there's something about work I wanted to discuss. We're planning to establish our own distribution network, and I want you to handle negotiations with a particular company along with me." "Negotiations? Which company?" "It's a company you know very well." Julia smiled mysteriously. She discreetly told me the name of the company, and I was shocked. It was the company I used to work for. There, President Anderson, Carter, and Emily were present. The negotiations seemed very important to them, and they looked tense. However, when I entered the room, Carter and Emily's faces turned visibly pale. The negotiation went smoothly, and Carter and Emily seemed relieved and confident. "What do you think?" "We would like to sign a contract with your company. The proposal is interesting." "What do you think, Justin?" "Yes, I found the content quite intriguing." "So, shall we sign?" "Well, contracting with their company is undoubtedly a good decision." "Indeed. We would very much like to sign a contract." "Really?" "Yes. However, there is a condition. We would like to sign a contract only if the GM and that lady are fired from your company." "What? What do you mean by that?" "Calm down." Julia, what exactly do you mean by that?" "Don't you know the circumstances under which Justin came to work at our company?" "Well, I thought I heard from Carter that Justin left for career advancement." "Ah, such a convenient story he told." "That's a blatant lie." "What?" "Justin, please explain the real circumstances." As Julia passed the conversation to me, Carter and Emily seemed to be pleading with their eyes. It seemed like they were hoping that I would help them in some way. Of course, I had no intention of helping them and honestly told the truth. I was harassed by Carter and Emily. It all started when I helped Julia, who was suffering from a stomachache right after my wedding. Despite helping someone, I was verbally abused by them and was falsely accused of a work mistake I did not commit, leading to my dismissal by Carter. What? Carter, is this true? That's not true. Justin is lying. I was angry because he made a mistake at work and tried to cover it up. That mistake was all made by Emily in the past. It's all recorded in the message history. Every day she made mistakes at work and said, "Dad will take care of it," in her conversations. Besides, if Justin had really made a work mistake, why would there be a need to lie about him leaving for career advancement? Indeed, Carter, their statements seem very reasonable. What do you have to say? Dad, do something. Cornered by everyone's accusations, Carter could no longer make excuses and finally confessed the truth. Yes, it's all a big lie. All the work mistakes were made by Emily. What? You two have done something outrageous. But it wasn't on purpose. Please, can you spare us from being fired? Come on, Emily, apologize. Please, I'm begging you. Even if Julia hadn't done that, we can't keep such problematic employees. You two are fired as of today. But how could this? Dad, what are we going to do now? With all due respect, you're old enough to stop relying on your father. You'll regret this. With that, we successfully concluded the negotiation. In the end, Carter and Emily were fired, and we finalized the contract. Having always felt wronged, this turn of events was quite satisfying. Later, Carter and Emily became notorious in the food industry as troublemakers and struggled to find new employment. As a result, both Carter and Emily ended up lost, without any clear direction for their future. Meanwhile, Oakwood Corporation's performance continued to improve. Lately, the company's sales have been very good. It's all thanks to you, Justin. Not at all. It's thanks to you, Julia. And thank you for what you did during the negotiation. That time. Oh, you mean during the negotiation? I didn't really do anything. I never imagined revenge could take such a form. I told you if it's revenge, I'll help. Did you foresee this happening? Well, I did have my father's involvement in the revenge. The condition we set was approved by him. Really? Of course, I don't have that much power on my own. Besides, my father was quite keen on the idea. He was. About revenge. Yes, he was very angry when he heard about your situation. I see. I should thank him as well. I heard a rumor that you were planning to move. Yes, I've been living with my parents since leaving my previous company. I don't want to burden them forever. So you're restarting living alone. Yes, but it's hard to find a good place. This area is a bit away from residential districts, so considering transportation, it can be difficult. Given it's a business district, the rent can be quite expensive. In that case, the apartment next to mine is available. It's in an area where our company offers a rent subsidy, and it's conveniently close to the station. Would you like to come and see it? Really? That sounds like a great place. Can I come and take a look? Please do. I'll speak to the real estate agent for you. So, I began preparing to move. The apartment Julia recommended was beautiful, with a great view and seemed very comfortable to live in. I decided to move there, and by the next month, I had successfully completed the move. After settling in, I decided to go out. And coincidentally, Julia was also leaving her apartment. Good morning. Good morning. I almost forgot we're neighbors now. It does feel a bit like we're living together, doesn't it? Kind of, yes. Are you going somewhere? Just going to buy some groceries. How about you? I was just going to take a walk. If you'd like, why not join me for lunch at my place? I couldn't impose. It's no trouble, really. Well, in that case, thank you. We chopped together and cooked a meal, enjoying lunch. This is delicious, Julia. You're a great cook. Thank you. Feel free to come over for a meal again. Next time, let me cook for you. I'm not sure if it'll be to your taste, though. I'm looking forward to it. Having lunch together like this on our day off, it's almost like we're living together. Living together? I mean, like roommates. Sorry, I misspoke. No, I was thinking the same, like cohabitation. We both felt embarrassed at the word cohabitation. I couldn't help but imagine living together with Julia. It seemed like it would be wonderful. I was actually thinking it might be nice to live with you, but it seemed weird to ask, so I suggested this apartment. Why did you recommend it to me? Because I like you, Justin. You like me? Yes. But you probably don't feel the same, so forget I said anything. That's not true. I like you too, Julia. Really? Yes. But I thought I wasn't good enough for you, being the daughter of a president and my benefactor. I don't care about that. I was drawn to your sincerity and kindness, and I was attracted to your caring and reliable nature. Would you go out with me? Yes, I'd love to. And so, Julia and I started dating. We later got married, and I eventually rose to become the next president of the company. We're expecting a child soon and are living happily as a family.